They say life is a game, gotta have your goals. I gotta take a shot, now pass me the ball. Always wanna stop.
Hello and welcome to Pitch Football, and it is with much excitement that I introduce this next episode to you. Mr. Paul Ince is going to meet Miss Abigail Davies, and they are going to have an exchange of hearts and minds. They're going to meet each other, have a good conversation, and I'm very excited to hear what comes of this. I'm just hoping that they're going to get here soon.
That's not for you, that's for
Oh,
no, that's
not
for
bringing me
Abigail, that's for
wine.
Abigail when she turns up. Where is
Oh,
she?
that's charming, that is, isn't it? Well, if it's not for me, I'm going to leave, and you can ring Abigail then.
She's not here yet.
Not here yet, no.
She's
And I
kept you
can't
waiting.
believe she's kept you waiting. Yeah, you go find her.
I will
See you
do.
later.
Thank you. That girl, honestly, that girl. Shock, engaged. Unbelievable, unbelievable.
Sorry. I was just on the phone to Robert Page telling him what I thought the starting 11 should be. Sorry about that.
No problem.
More important things and all.
More important things, I've got your glass of wine.
Ah, thank you very much.
You know.
Thank you. Yeah.
Should have chucked it away because you kept me waiting, but that's fine.
I'm glad you don't hold a grudge. The neck. Have a sip. Calm down a little bit.
Yeah, calm down.
Cheers.
What did Paige say? Was you alright with you?
He didn't answer. I think he's blocked my number again. He's had 4 different numbers. Changes them all the time.
Does he?
Yeah. I don't think it's anything against me.
Terrible.
No. But
I'm glad you're here.
yeah. It's nice to have a nice little chat, and especially because we've had a good few conversations about football and the deeper side of it. Just it's so significant to both of us at different points of our lives. It's meant different things, and yeah, I just think we should start. From your childhood to the pinnacle of your career, how significant would you say football's been to you?
I think it's massively important.
Yeah.
I think when you kind of just, growing up, as a kid, you can either go one or two ways, and I was at that kind of probably crossroads where do I go that way with the rest of the boys or do I go this way for football? And it's a hard decision because when you talk about, a lot of these boys that I used to hang around with had no families, so we were the family. That makes sense, you know what I mean? So it was always tough to kind of leave them. I've actually felt so hard to leave them, even when I was at 17, 18, I was still hanging around with them. Obviously West Ham didn't know about it, But I was still hanging around with them, and it was hard to just kind of leave them. And then some of them were a little bit jealous, as in to say, well, why, you've been with us for 6 years now. Yeah. You've been,
But I guess that's all they've known as well, though, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So it's difficult for them. You said you found it difficult, but they're going to find it difficult for you to leave as well.
Yeah, true. They did. And I think it was funny though because I remember going back to Dagenham about 6 years ago, and I used to have a very close friend of mine. He was my best mate at school. He was actually a better footballer than me. He was a better footballer than me. And I remember going past Goodmay Station in the car, and I looked round and I thought, that's my mate, that is. Like, reverse back round, come back, stop the car, and it was him. And he was just dressed in like holes in his trousers. And I said, is that you? He went, yeah. He said, what are you doing? He said, I need some money. I need some money for drugs. I'm living in a bed sit. And I thought, wow. That he could have been in my position, and I could easily have been in his position.
Exactly.
And it's so sad to see, and sometimes I kind of look at it and think, I'm glad I made that right decision.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. But then, I guess, is there a chance that you could have kept in touch? Like, how easily did you lose that contact with them?
I think you do. I think you have to. There's no way that you can't. You're going to keep hanging around with these guys. You've got to remember we were like out most of the time causing trouble. So when you kind of start taking football seriously, then you've got to make that decision. You can't half-heartedly make it.
Yeah. But do you think you could have? Do you look back and think it would have been so easy to go down that route?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. It's a given. Yeah. And that's having that kind of mental toughness to say, well, listen, I'm prepared to sacrifice, what I've done for the last 6 years, to try and start doing something that what I've got a passion for. And a lot of these players had a passion for. And I remember even when we were 12, 13, 14, in my Saturday Sunday club, we had about 8 players who used to go to West Ham every day, every Tuesday night, every Thursday night. Same players, good players, as I said, better players than me. And but they couldn't deal with the coaches having a go at them because they've spent so many years on their own, or no one told them what to do. So then you go to a West Ham where it's disciplined, and coaches say, Mike, you should do this, and they go, not having that.
But couldn't that have been you? Because you might not have had that influence early on in your life where people are, shaping and moulding you in that certain way. So you might not have reacted that well to...
No, and it's funny though, because I kind of think to myself, what made me different from them?
Yeah.
Because as I said before, they were probably better players than what I was, and I'm thinking, well, why am I so different? Why have I decided to make that decision and they haven't? Maybe it's a case of comfortability, I mean, I always felt that I wanted to, even when my dad left when I was 2, my mum went to Germany to work when I was 10. So from 10 years of age, I spent a lot of time going from place to place. Eventually finding my digs, with a lovely lady called Barbara in Dagenham. So, so I always had this kind of feeling in the back of my mind that I wanted to have a family, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A close family, and this is the only way I could do it. And then I look back on other people and I think, well, you've done exactly the same. And it is sad, but I don't know, I sometimes say to myself, sometimes I say, well, why me? What separated me from
At
them?
10 years old, what stopped you from going, well, both my parents aren't there, I could go down a completely different path now?
And I did. I did
Yeah.
for a period of time. I did for 6-7
Yeah,
years.
yeah.
And luckily I had someone like John Lowe, he had a lot of faith in me and belief in me. Because there were other coaches at West Ham who were saying to John Lowe, get rid of him. He's nothing but trouble. To get rid of him. So, but he kept faith in me, and that's a good thing when you've got someone to look up to. Because I was looked to John Lowe as my father figure.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to let him down more than anything. I'm here now, aren't I?
Yeah, exactly. And now you're stuck with me.
I'm stuck with you. So no.
But how difficult is it to cling on to that, when you're elevated to such a height, and then, you're very much, a lot of people always say that you are so down to earth, you're so grounded, but it must be difficult to cling on to that at times.
I don't know, absolutely, I don't know. I mean, it's great because I'm glad that I'm grounded, I'm glad that I haven't kind of lost where I've come from, and what it's taken me to get where I am today. And that kind of goes back into my 2 sons, my daughter, they're very grounded kids. And we talk about different generations, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
We come from a culture where it wasn't about money, it was scrimping and scraping to, to make ends meet.
Yeah.
And then, all of a sudden you've got everything you need, and you're bringing up kids in that environment. And I said, listen, be grounded. Talk to people the way you want them to be, and respect them. And to be fair, the best thing for me is when people come up to me and say, oh, your boy's a nice boy, really grounded, really down to earth. And you get, as a father, you get so much pleasure out of that. Anything, and it's my other son and my daughter, Ria, they're lovely children, you've got lovely children, you've got a lovely family. And that's a nice thing to say, and that outweighs everything, it really, really does.
Do you keep them, do they know about all your stories and your childhood and things like that? Do you tell them about that? And
it's tough, isn't it? It's tough, it's tough. It's tough because Daniel's he's 24 now, he's probably missed most of my career. Thomas, to be fair, he's been part of my career, so he's been to France, 98, he's been to the Euros, so he knows what I was capable of. Ria hasn't got a clue, which is quite nice. It's quite nice in a way. It's quite nice because she just sees me as dad. She knows I played football. So I don't really care less what team it was or what you achieved. You're just a dad, and that's a nice thing about it,
But we've lost that, haven't we, to a certain degree now when you look at footballers and they've got things from such a young age. I bet when you went to West Ham you were cleaning boots and you have to do that, you have to do the apprenticeship and things like that. We've kind of lost that, haven't we?
Yeah, but why do you think that is? Why do you think we kind of stopped doing that?
Because I guess because the money involved. So, you need that instant success and you need to have that... players are now going to academies from a younger age. There's more riding on it, and I think a lot of it is parent pressure. That from a very young age, young footballers going into an academy, and the parents are going, "My footballer's playing for Man City," or "My son's playing for Man United." So then that child instantly, and it comes back to.
You didn't say Swansea. You didn't say my son's playing for Swansea or Cardiff. Well, that's the first, Abs. That is the first.
Do you know what? I'm regretting that one now. I really regret that. But you just do see those. I think Swansea, it's a different level, isn't it? Man City. Let's be honest. You talk about Man City in a different light. You see the Louis Vuitton bags.
It's peer pressure, isn't it? If you get Swansea or any football team, isn't it?
Well, absolutely more so if you're at Swansea, in my opinion. It's such a great club. No, but you think of where you could have been. And then you look at your career you had, and then as a manager, how do you separate, you know, when you see youngsters coming in and they may have gone through the same thing as you did? How do you, you know, how important is it to be that man manager, and how much do you tell them about your journey, or, you know, what you've been through? What do you...
I think it's kind of tough, really, you know what I mean? Because one thing for most, I don't like talking about myself. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a shock.
I'm trying to be serious here, mate. You're messing about. All right, stop it now.
You opened the door.
Yeah, I know. I've got to be careful what I say now, don't I, to you? But no, listen, I think you know, man management is key in a lot of things. And I also think it's tough when you're a manager, because as soon as you get walking through the door, they expect, because it's you, they're in awe of you. You know, and then all of a sudden, as a manager, you think, well, you need to produce. You know, but just going back to talking about the young kids, you know, and I think, you know, you're right. You know, there's so many teams now who are fighting to get these 6, 7-year-olds. You know, and you know, the peer pressure from the parents is ridiculous. And this is the problem that I have, because I spent 4 or 5 years playing in the Saturday afternoon, enjoying my football with my mates. Yeah, these kids are getting taken away from that. You know what I mean? Because
and it's pure, isn't it, at that age? It's something, I think you need to experience that to hone in on the love of the game.
Of course you do.
Before you just see it as a career, and you it's kind of almost a sterile environment then, where you just see it as a way to make money, as opposed to just loving the actual game.
From 99.9%, because only 0.1% make it, you make it. But the parents are so, we've got to make it, to make it. And I've seen so many situations where clubs are saying, right, listen, we'll have your son at 7 and we'll buy you a car, or you know, or we want him to move up to so we'll buy you a house. This is the level that we're talking about, you know, and you see it time and time again. And then these kids are then getting disregarded, 16, 17, 18, no qualifications, don't know where to turn to. You know, we saw a kid from Manchester City, you know, young commit suicide. You know, on the basis of that. So we've got to take that really, really seriously. You know, and it's tough, because there's so many sharks out there trying to get the best talent. You know, and the other kids,
it's ruthless.
It's ruthless, and you know, but it shouldn't be ruthless at 7 or 8. You know, and a lot of these kids are just supporting acts for 1 or 2 stars in the team. You know, to make 11v11. So I don't like the way it is. You know, I mean, for my son, to be fair, when we came back from Inter Milan, he went straight to Tremia. You know, because I wanted to, his mates were there, he enjoyed it there. It was only until he got to about 15 that he went to Liverpool. But he did it the right way, you know, because he had to push on. You know, he had to push and see if he could make it or not. But he spent the 3 or 4 years with his mates. And these kids don't have that opportunity, do they? And that's the sad thing about it. And I think, you know, financially, you're spot on. Is it becoming all about money? Is it becoming about money?
Yeah, absolutely. And do you ever think that what would have happened to you? You mentioned those children who are released at 16, 17, and you know, they're not seen as maybe dual purpose athletes, which I think you should be in this day and age. I think you should have your qualifications in something else, so that if football doesn't work out, you've got something to fall back on. What would you have done at that age, because you were then so invested in football, and you said that alternative life? Would it have been almost as simple as falling back into those habits had that opportunity not arisen?
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, what else you can do? Because, you know, I half went to school.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I had this attitude that I'm going to be a footballer.
Yeah.
So I don't need to do all my exams and X, Y, and Z. And when you've got that kind of mindset, it's the wrong mindset to have, because you're right, because people are getting, you know, disregarded from clubs at 16, 18. And I think if I'd have probably been in the same situation, then it'd been easy for me to go, right, I'm going back to where I wouldn't know what to do. I'd probably work in McDonald's or something like that. You know, we just passed McDonald's before.
Yeah, we did. You almost had an apple pie, didn't you?
I always went hard to pass a McDonald's, you know.
Yeah. Do you? No, I'm a vegan.
Of course you are.
I find it quite simple, actually.
Maybe an apple pie. You could eat an apple pie.
No, I
can't
couldn't.
You?
No.
Oh, well.
No.
So yeah. So
You're thinking of McDonald's now, aren't you?
I'm thinking about Big Mac, large fries, apple pie, carrot of ketchup, and a bottle of still water. But no, I think, all jokes aside, I think it's easy to fall back into that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, nowadays, I mean, even like the nowadays the kids at 16 that have to go to college for 2 days a week. And I think it's got to be the way forward because, you know, it's horrible for a kid. Every kid wants to be a footballer. Yeah. They've got their idols, they watch all the best Man United, the City's, Liverpool, and they want to be like them. And they think that's me. And the parents are saying, oh yeah, you're great. Yeah. Well played today, son. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, whether you didn't play well, but you know, they give them that encouragement, even though they, you know. Yeah. And when they do get let down, the kids, it's more heartbreaking for the parents. Is it, you know, for them,
but it's,
you know.
It's similar to, you know, a sports day now where they're saying, oh, we shouldn't give out first, second, third, fourth, because it's, you know, it's demoralising for those children. But I think it's just learning what's for you and what's not for you. Yeah. You know, if a footballer, if they're not that good at playing football, then you maybe should try and hone in on a different skill that they possess, as opposed to just pushing that and pushing it, because that's a viable, you know, a payday essentially for you. But I think
maybe they can be a presenter like you. Why not?
Yeah, no, they could. Yeah, they could.
I mean, did you always want to be a presenter? Was that what you wanted to do, or? When you was a kid, what did you want to be? What did you want to do? What was your ambition? What was your passion?
So I wanted to be a footballer, genuinely. Yeah. And then I think because you didn't see it, and I think that's a big thing now, you know, if you see it, you can be it. And I never saw that as a route to success. So I played football at school until I was about 9 or 10. And then I developed anorexia. So I wasn't allowed to play sports anymore, and I got severely unwell. And it was, you know, it was very similar in terms of my father couldn't handle that. You know, he didn't really understand mental illnesses, and, you know, you can't hold that against someone. The knowledge maybe wasn't there. He could have done better to try and understand it. But
and what age was you when this happened?
So I developed it at 9, and then...
When you say develop it, you know, don't mind me touching it, do you? Yeah, when you say develop it, I mean, what signs, what you just...
So it's a voice inside your head that's separate to your own. And it starts to grind you down. So it's almost like an abusive relationship with your own mind. So it starts telling you you're not worthy of maybe that bag of crisps, or maybe you should cut that out. And as a 9-year-old, I didn't understand that wasn't normal. So, you know, nobody's talking about it. Nobody tells you about these things. So I let it kind of build up in my head, and we formed almost like a friendship. So I guess, you know, when people have imaginary friends, it was almost that, but it was obviously a very negative one. So that built for years before
and you
it
never
actually.
Told your dad about this? You just
so
kept it to yourself.
Yeah. So
did you want to tell someone? Or?
No, because it was very manipulative. Because it would say, you know, we'll keep this between us, or, you know, you skip that meal there, but say that you've had it, because other people will be happier if you say you've had it. So I'd start doing that then, and it, you know, at that age you wonder how that can manifest. But, you know, it's things that you've picked up throughout your childhood, and they all start to fester in that. And it's a coping mechanism. So it's a way of dealing with something when other aspects of your life aren't controllable. So I always saw my dad's relationship with my brother. They had a very strong bond, whereas he never had that bond with me. I couldn't make him have that relationship with me. And as a 9-year-old, what's one thing that's a constant in your life that you can control? Your food intake. So that's how it then manifested itself as an eating disorder, because that's something, as a youngster, that's something I have control over. So then when that voice started saying these things, and I started believing it, and, you know, it would then, after about 2 years, it would start saying, you know, you're worthless, or you don't deserve to have happiness, you don't deserve that food, you don't deserve these things. And it's hard to believe then that you are worth anything else. So when you're told that and you're grounded down, it's hard to get out of that cycle. So it got to, I think I was about 13, 14, and my grandfather passed away, and that's where it really took hold. And it just, that was my only outlet. I'd stopped seeing friends, I'd stopped watching football, which as a 3-year-old, you know, I was always on the sideline watching my brother play. I'd sit down and watch a test match by myself, and my mother'd always joke, because her and my father split up, she'd be like, I've got rid of all the men in my life, and now you're sat there watching a test match. So,
a test match?
Yeah. As a 3-year-old girl. But so it was, I then got, I got so poorly, I took a pill called DMP, which has previously been used in explosives. It killed a girl called Eloisa Parry, because it just burns you up from the inside out. And I was addicted to laxatives and got admitted to hospital.
Who was giving you these tablets? How did you
I'd ordered them online. There was no watchdog, so nobody was asking my age. I'd just be able to put my my mum's details in. I'd tell her I'd bought clothes, and she wasn't savvy enough to check her bills or whatever. So, and any spare money I had, anything I had, would go on diet pills, on laxatives, on DMP. Luckily, I only took that a few times because it would have killed me. But at that stage, I remember saying I'd do anything to satisfy that voice, because it became so strong and so powerful, and it manipulated everything I did. I had to exercise throughout the night. I only slept when I passed out. So it was never,
Was you going to school at the same time?
Yeah. So I was going to school and then, lying about what I was eating day to day, and coming home, and, you've got tricks and tips to kind of manipulate other people into thinking you're okay. And then it got to the stage where I had no outlook on life. I couldn't move. If I walked up the stairs, I'd either pass out or my legs would be swollen because I couldn't do anything. And the thing is, it's coupled with body dysmorphia. So you never see what you actually are. Like, I was a very, very low weight, and you can't see that because body dysmorphia makes you see things in a different light.
Different way, yeah.
So I saw myself as a lot bigger. So then the voice would continue to put me down and to say, you need to do this, you need to do that. And every waking moment was to satisfy that eating disorder. So when I was admitted to hospital, that power was taken off me. And I remember saying, I don't want to be here anymore. And I planned my funeral. I wrote it all down, everything from songs to who I wanted to attend. And I just thought, right, I'm going to go. Like, there's no way I can fight this anymore because it's painful.
But you did fight it?
Well, only because of football. So, I was stuck on a unit, and my uncle said, can I take you to a football match? And I thought, do you know what, that's a perfect way to say goodbye to him, because he's kind of been like a father figure to me. It's a perfect way to say goodbye to him, and then I'm done. And we got to the football, and I can honestly say that was 90 minutes where I just had respite. So I wasn't listening to anorexia. I was going, why are we playing 5 at the back? Or why are we playing 4-4-2? Or
why are we playing so rubbish?
Yeah.
That type of stuff.
Yeah. So, and it was 90 minutes, and don't get me wrong, you then leave that environment, and the voice is even worse because you've gone against it, and you're putting up a fight against it. I told my mum I didn't love her, and that was only because the voice saw her as a threat. I wouldn't drink tap water because I was convinced someone was putting calories in it. You become paranoid about absolutely everything. So I just saw that then. That 90 minutes gave me hope, and I think other people saw that more than me the first time. So then we started building on it, and the more I did that, the more I thought, I can actually have a voice in this, and I can get there. So I started writing match reports from my hospital bed, and they probably made sense to nobody but me because I was on so many different drugs. They probably only made sense to me, and it would only be me that saw them, and then they'd go in the bin. But from there, then I started to build, and the more I fought against it, the more I thought, I am worthy of life. I can be successful at something other than my eating disorder. And it's not a linear process. It never will be, and I'll probably always live with it. I'll probably wake up every morning and have that voice there. Yeah. But it's managing it and knowing that now I'm in a position where I control anorexia. It's not in control of me. So I think that's
amazing story.
To me, it's quite poignant in terms of, speaking to someone like you, in terms of, does a footballer ever realise the impact that sport has on a fan? To me, it's quite poignant in terms of, speaking to someone like you, in terms of, does a footballer ever realise the impact that sport has on a fan?
No.
I guess you do more than most because of what it's done for your life, but your average footballer, do they understand what it means?
Well, I think we're going back to mental illness. It's great that you're in control of it now because you can sit here and just talk about it and not have any effect about it, and it's good that you can do that. I admire you for that. I think you're a strong lady because people don't really understand mental illness. It's now coming more of tradition now. We've seen players come out of it, Jordan Henderson, Jesse Lingard. So, as you said, at 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, you didn't want to bring that. You didn't want to say anything to your parents. Now people feel that they can say it out.
And I didn't know enough about it. I think I remember when I got when I got diagnosed with anorexia, my doctor literally said, "You've got anorexia, but your weight isn't low enough for treatment, so come back when you've lost more weight," and handed me a leaflet. Well, that's the worst thing you can possibly say, because one, it's a mental illness. The weight loss is just a side effect, really. And two, where am I getting this information from? You've just printed out a page. But now, I think that's why I find it so important to speak out, because people should know about it. Everyone should know mental illnesses affect 1 in 4 people. So I think everyone should have that awareness and the ability to go, do you know what, there doesn't need to be a stigma.
No, it doesn't, no.
You know,
I think we're better to be able to put it out there.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of opening ourselves up to that, as well as, you know, Black Lives Matter, all this type of stuff. You know, it's a kind of package going forward here on this. And, you know, you talk about, you know, just being in that lonely place.
Yeah.
You know, and I think sometimes as a manager, you know, you do get in a lonely place. You know, and not to the extent, you know, that you've been, but
it's still there.
And it's tough. And when I look at these footballers and they say, well, we've got mental illness or got mental health problems, you know, people go, well, why should you? You know, you've got a big house, you're driving a car, you've got loads of money, but it's not nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
You've got nothing to do with that. And, you know, I think sometimes when I've managed, especially at Blackburn, you know, where, you know, it's my first job in the Premier League, and you're under pressure to perform, to produce, and you're losing game after game, and then you're going back home and, you know, neglecting your family and kids, and there's, you know, they want to play, and you go no, and you shut yourself in a room. And I used to shut myself in a room loads of times. We used to get beat most of the time, so it was quite frequent. You know, and
it's lonely.
It is lonely, and you feel lonely, and you feel like, you know, you're trapped and you don't know how to get out of it. You know, and that's not me saying that I've had that mental illness, because I would never know what it was like. You know, but there are times where you do feel lonely. And when you talk about managing, you know, you do, and you sit and you think, well, what can I do? You know, and you start saying things over in your head, and then you start like talking to yourself, saying, well, I need to do this, I need to do that. You know, so, you know, we'll get into dark places. You know, we do. You know, and I think it's great that we can now put this mental illness out there and issues and deal with it, because it is a serious illness. You know, and
was there a point where you realised how unhappy it was making you?
There was a point where it was making my family unhappy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, you know, I've had enough experience as a young kid growing up. You know, racial stuff. You know, from when I was 12. You know, so that's made me tough. You know, and as a footballer, you're always in control. You mentioned that word, in control. I know what I'm doing. You know, when I go and play on the pitch on a Saturday, I know what I'm doing. But as a manager, and you think the players had changed. You know, I've gone from players like Roy Keane and Gerrard, you know what I mean, who just go, right, we're going to do our jobs and get on with it, to players who are earning 50, 60 grand a week. You know, and, you know, if you don't win games, then there's always issues, you know, and I always say managing a football club like looking after 26 kids. And then you've got to manage the staff, then you've got to manage the chairman, and you've got to manage the press. You know, there's a lot of things in that, you know, that you can't actually do on your own, and it can stress you out, and it can send you mad sometimes, you know, and then sometimes you come home from work and you're grumpy, you know, and Claire was
I never imagine you'd be grumpy.
I'm not grumpy, to be fair. I've got your glass of wine, by the way.
Thank you.
And Claire would say, listen, before you a bit out of order with the kids, you know what I mean, because they want to come and play, and you go, just go away, and you know, you kind of look back at it and you think, they weren't nice times, you know what I mean? And then there's some good times, you know, and then I think, you know, the effect that you can have on players, you know, we talk about fans, you know, you kind of understand that. I think as a manager, you kind of get so sucked into being a manager and trying to make everything right that you forget about your life, your personal life, you know, with the wife and kids. And you know, I've spent 25 years now not really doing that. And they're all grown up now. So I feel like I've kind of missed probably 6, 7 years, 8 years of their life growing up. Not complaining, that's what the job offers, you know. But I just think that for some way or the other, we've kind of had different kind of experiences, and football's kind of brought us to where we are.
Absolutely.
You know, and you know, that's a great thing. It is a great thing, you know what I mean? And you talk about the fans and the impact the fans have, and you know, we never know what fans are like. You know, when fans, I always say this, you know, sometimes you're managing in a Dutch line, and you know, you're 1-0 down. And you hear these fans going, Ince, you're rubbish, get rid of him, get him on, get him off, you know what I mean? And you have that thing in your head where you think, you know, but we don't know about the fans, do we? You talk a lot about fans and how important they are to our game, and we've seen it over the last 2 years with the pandemic, not having fans on the ground. But we was talking about, you know, what are the fans like? What's their outside of football?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What their lives like? We never really talk about that, do we?
And even as a fan, you know, if I'm going to watch Swansea, I could tell you the 3 guys who sit in front of me. I could tell you what they order at half time because sometimes I get it in. Couldn't tell you their surnames.
You couldn't.
No, couldn't tell you the surnames. But I know who they support. I know what they think of Ashley Williams or Leon Britton, but I couldn't tell you what they do as a job. You know, I think to an extent, it's nice to have some people like that you can switch off from the outside world.
Yeah.
And you can, you know, what your income is, what you're feeling outside of football, it doesn't matter. You come together at 2:00 or 3:00 on a Saturday afternoon, and you're just there purely to talk about football. And it's that escapism is vital for so many people. And I think, you know, sometimes when you say about fans in the crowd who are shouting things, and you never know, whilst, you know, sometimes it's very much out of order, you never know what they've just left.
Yeah, or the situation back at home. Yeah, you don't. And sometimes it's like, you know, we don't know, you know, there could be issues back at home, there could be getting divorced, there could be loads of many things, you know what I mean, variables, but, and the football's got to kind of release for them, isn't it? And they kind of release all their frustrations at the manager, at the player, at the opposing fans, you know.
And it shouldn't be that way, because then you've got those lives as well, and it becomes a vicious cycle. But I think having that outlet is so important for everyone in football. But how did you get to the point where you just went, do you know what, my family are struggling, we need to, is that what made you call it a day in terms of management?
I wouldn't say I'd lost kind of faith in it. You know, I just felt that it was such a precarious job. You know, there was no longevity in it. You know, unless you're a Mourinho or Pep or something like that. You know, we'd see managers getting sacked all the time. You know, and you can never. You know, I'm fortunate in a way that my kids are older now, because some managers have got young kids, and if they get a job in Cardiff, for example, they've got to take all their family down now, and there's no assurance that you're going to last more than 6 months. You know, so, and I just believe that we kind of, I still believe I can manage. I know from my record that I've been a good manager. I've not been a great manager. I've made mistakes, and I've, you know, especially at Blackburn, I've made mistakes, but you learn from the mistakes. But as far as going to Blackpool and Notts County and MK Dons, I've had promotions. You know, so I feel I can still manage, but I'm just not sure whether I believe there's a kind of outlet for black managers to get back into the game. And I shouldn't be saying that. I mean, I say that I'm saying it in the 21st century.
Absolutely.
But there is a kind of shortage of black managers, and even if you look at Jim Hasselbank, you know, went to Burton, they were going down, kept them up, unbelievable job. You know, Sol Campbell, Macclesfield, kept them up. Then they give them the Southend job at the bottom of the table. You know, these people are not getting chances.
Absolutely, and you know, I think Hasselbank is a prime example, because he's somebody who I watched a lot of Burton games last season, and the transformation when he came in was huge. But you never then a championship job comes up, and I've not once heard his name mentioned. You know, you never hear him, and you just think, surely in this day and age, it can't be because he's black.
Thing is, you don't want to think that way, do you?
That's
because
exactly.
you look at what he's done.
You
know, but I think there is that. I think the stats show it. You know, and to be fair, we are trying to change it. But we're not changing it. I mean, we're doing a lot of talking about it. Nothing's really coming up. And, you know, if someone said to me, listen, Paul, we're going to give you a job for 3 years. If you don't do it and you don't get where we want to get to, then you lose your job. I'll be hands up. That's not a problem. You can give them a chance to do it. That's not the case now. You know, and the worrying thing for me is that we've got a lot of black players in our game. You know, I think there's about 25% black players now, and they're playing in the Football League and the Premier League. And my son's one of them. You know, and he's got a vast knowledge of football. And I'm thinking, well, once he finishes football, does he believe at that time that he's going to have a job or have an opening or chance to sit around the table and say, this is what I'll give you a chance of managing? Does he believe that? Because all we see at the moment, the likes of Rio Ferdinand, the likes of Ashley Cole, these people are just now going straight into punditry. Because they don't believe that there's an avenue for these black players to have a crack at a manager's job. And it's not like we've looked at black managers and said, oh, they've been a failure.
Exactly.
They've all actually succeeded in what they've done. And I said, I went from Macclesfield to Milton Keynes to Premier League in 3 years. In 3 years, so it can be done. But in today's day and age, we're not seeing the signs that we're talking a lot.
Yeah, and
there's no action.
The thing is as well that, you know, you talk about your son and other black footballers, but a lot of white managers haven't even been successful footballers. And you just think if there's, you know, a black man or woman out there who has done all their coaching badges, could be fantastic, have a fantastic understanding and awareness of the game. But then if a black footballer can't even get that opportunity, if you're not a successful footballer, then you're not even looking at that as an avenue at all, are you?
No, you're not. Because as I said, I mentioned those names, didn't I?
Yeah.
You know, Hasselbank, you know, Sol Campbell, these are top footballers.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that kind of scares me. And we are keep mentioning it. We are trying to do things about it, but I'm not too sure. I mean, we talked about the Rooney Rule. Yeah. That came and go for 2 minutes. You know, the Rooney Rule in America's works. And the Rooney Rule in America's works. Yeah. You know, you talk about the NFL, you know, the Pittsburgh Steelers, you've got Mike Tomlin now. Yeah. He's been a fantastic coach and he's been there for 10 years, 11 years. Yeah. You know, you'll never see that in England, you know. And I hope we can get to that stage, you know what I mean? Because I hate to think that these top players, you know, who've played all their careers, you know, want to go into management, but feel, well, we can't do it because we don't feel... And listen, they've got to do the badges. They can't make excuses. I always said this. You know what I mean? You've got to be qualifications. You've got to do your badges. You've got to be ready to. You might have to go into League Two. I went to League Two to manage. Yeah. You know? Yeah. Frank Lampard went to Derby. Stevie Gerrard into Rangers. Yeah. You know? Sol Campbell went into Macclesfield. Bottom team in League Two we went to. Yeah. And yet we just had careers as them. Yeah. So you can see it in that. You know, and they need to recognise that. But ultimately, it's the CEO who makes the decision. It's the owners that make the decision. So, I mean, but hopefully somewhere down the line we could kind of push away where the kids who come into the end of their career, or grown men, feel that they've got a chance in management, and ladies, and women. Yeah. It's not just about black players, you know, it's about ladies.
But the thing that always annoys me is, and maybe I've been guilty of it before, you know, saying, oh, well, you know, I don't mind who it is, whether it's man, woman, black, white, you know, I don't mind as long as they're the best person for the job. The thing is, black people are being overlooked for these things, even though they are the best for the job. So that sentence is outdated. Yeah. You know, that statement is so outdated because we've seen that there are black people who are the best for the job. And they're not being given it.
Yeah, not being given it. Not being given a chance. Not being getting them around the table. And we get into a situation where as soon as the manager gets sacked, before you know it, you know, you wake up next day and someone else is in place. Yeah. And these are kind of the same, we call it the merry-go-round. The same managers are getting the same jobs all the time, whether they fail or succeed. And there's the black managers who, you know, can't get a job waiting to try and do something or get a lower team where they're taking a risk and do well to try and progress their career. And it's a difficult one. It really, really is. And I think, you know, somewhere down the line we have to change it somewhere. But ultimately, if the owner says we want this manager, or the CEO says that one, or the football director says we want this, what can you do? Yeah. You know, what can you do?
But we also need to change it. It's not just in management. You know, you look at social media after the England's first game, and Calvin Phillips has a superb game. The first thing that's in a newspaper is about his father or about his personal life, and you know, these things you're seeing a pattern about Sterling buying a house for his mum and putting, you know, wording it in a terrible way which makes him look like he's done something awful, and you just think you've got this negativity spirals through into the press, and you just start thinking, you know, they've had so many obstacles off the pitch that they've had to deal with, and it's, you know, they're having to deal with enough because there are still racists involved in football. You don't need newspapers and magazines to be following suit.
No, and which is exactly what they're doing. Yeah, you know, it's like some of them enjoying it. Yeah, you know, enjoying it. And you know, the thing is, we always talk about social media, and I think, you know, I'm so glad. You know, in my time, you know, we didn't have it. You know, I really am, because, you know, it can cause... Internet's great, but it's also terrible. It's also bad. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, these players... And I was kind of thinking, if I was on social media and I was getting abused, would it affect me? I probably wouldn't read it. I probably wouldn't do social media. You know what I mean? If people are going to abuse me, then it wouldn't affect me.
I think it's easier said than done. I know we've had this conversation. It is almost like a form of self-harm.
Mm.
You just see it and you just think, especially if you're already feeling negative about yourself. So, take you back to the day where you were locking yourself in a room and you're already feeling quite rubbish about yourself. And then you see these comments that are backing it up and they're making you go, I'm right to feel this way about myself. And that's how I think they can...
Yeah, but I never doubted myself. If anything, those comments should make you feel stronger. I went through a period at 19 West Ham, making my debut, where I was, we were getting beat 4-0 against the Premier League team, and I had to go on and John Lowell would go and warm up. I said, you mad? I said, we're 4-0 down, what am I going to do? I warmed up down the touchline and people were throwing bananas and coins at me. And I was only 19.
How do you deal with that?
Well, I dealt with it because I'd already kind of experienced that when I was a kid, 12, 13, standing on the street corner, the cars going by, calling us, racial remarks. So I'd learnt to live with that. So doing it in a game, I'd already experienced it, which toughened me up, it hardened me. It doesn't make it right that people can start going on social media and start slaughtering people. Kyle Walker, and I'm in the Champions League final, for example. Shevchenko gives a goal away. Yeah. And it's the black players who get basically, there's no fairness to it. And
it's the fact that you say that story and I don't feel like we've moved on.
No.
Okay, there might not be actual objects thrown, but the noises are the same. Not from, maybe it's fewer people, but the noises are still there in this day and age, and you just think, how do you change that mindset for people?
You can't. You can't stop someone from on social media from doing that. And I will be honest with you. I think players are a lot more fragile now than they were nowadays. Not to say that they're soft, they're a bit more fragile. I noticed that when I was at Blackburn. So it does affect them big time. And Rashford's had a lot of it. Now this is someone who's been doing everything for his kids. You know what I mean? About school meals and that. He's been absolutely unbelievable. It's been amazing. And yet they lose a game and you get racially abused. There's no, you can't get out of that. You know what I mean? So, what's the answer for that? What do we do? Because there's always going to be some idiot who's going to do that. And I think the things don't go on social media. Just give it to someone and let them do it, or keep it privately. But a lot of people I speak to say, "Well, I've got to be on social media so I can get so many views and I can get so many this." And,
that's unhealthy in itself, isn't it? It's unhealthy.
That's how they think. And, I think it's just I saw it. I went to see Jamie Carragher at Melwood training ground when Roy Hodgson was the manager, and the England team were away. So there were certain players at Melwood who weren't playing. Jamie Carragher was one of them. And I remember going into the changing room with Jamie, we were having a chat, and it was deadly quiet. All right? And then suddenly 6 players came in. They went straight to their phones. They just sat down like that on their phones like that. And I was like, wow. In my time I'd have been like shouting, people would be getting like, well, it'd be kicking off. You know what I mean? And I thought, I could then see it's changing and changing, and I think this is the problem we've got with football. The phones have become more important than actually the game itself. Which is sad.
And actually interacting with your teammates as well.
Of course, this is why we talk about there's no leaders or captains. No one talks anymore. And it's tough. Sometimes I sit down with my son, I'd probably get 2 words out of him.
That might be a reflection of you.
So, I mean, there is a lot of things out there, and I think social media, I'm not sure we're ever going to clamp down it, unless the platforms themselves, they've got to do a lot more.
But you look at Marcus Rashford, I think the biggest thing from me, as someone who, we've spoken about it before, when I was growing up, we didn't have a great deal of money, and I remember to fund an away day, I'd have to be, can I have this pocket money or can I do this? And, some days when I was old enough to have a drink at an away day, I'd be using my card going, please don't decline, because everything was put into supporting Swansea City and travelling to away days. But Marcus Rashford, what he's done, of course, in terms of feeding people is fantastic, but it's the stigma breaking, when I've been on free school meals, and it's that whole, oh my God, she's getting free school meals. That means her parents can't work, or she's only got one parent, and it's breaking that stigma of, well, if Marcus Rashford is saying that's okay, and I think it'll stop that element of bullying or making those children feel lesser because they don't have that money. And I think, do you realise that that's what you did? You've made those people who may have felt like they had less feel like they're equal.
Yeah, you're probably right. I think you are right. I think even when I was at school, no disrespect, we had a little gang, and we used to kind of like chip in to try and get a bag of chips at the bottom of the corner, because we could afford school meals, but I wasn't embarrassed by that. No. It's just normal for the way I was living. It was no different. And I think, but yeah, you're right. What Marcus Rashford's done is absolutely immense. And then to get abused, or anyone to get abused, whether it's black, white, yellow, pink, it doesn't matter. You know, but racism is not just about black people getting abused. You know what I mean? It's discrimination against all types of people, women, you name it. You know, religions, all that type of stuff. It just seems quite prevalent that it's, you know, where we are, it's more about black people. But yeah, will it ever go away? No, I think it's always going to be in our society. Can we try and dilute it a bit? I think we tried that. You know what I mean? We've all tried to do it. The press, us guys, you know, the PFA, the LMA, Premier League, EFL. We've all tried to do it. We've made a good part of trying to get this down. But when you think you're kind of getting there, then all of a sudden we get kind of all this social media stuff, you know, and it makes you think what's going to be next, and you know, and it's quite scary. I don't think players should have to suffer it.
I think teaching about Black history and having a Black History Month in school, things like that, and just making it, you know, so that it's not, we're not ignoring it, we're embracing it. And I think that's what we need to do. Have it as part of the curriculum in school.
Education.
Yeah, and to, you know, to stamp out, because...
But it's funny how we took that 21st century, we got to have it in school.
I know, exactly.
You know, it's madness, isn't it?
But you're never going to stamp it out, because parents will then pass it on to their children, who'll pass it on to their... So if you can break that cycle by talking about it in school, so you know, you can plant that seed in a child's head where it's kind of like their parent may still be racist, but they've got that awareness and they've got that knowledge to kind of think, no, but he's wrong what he's saying because of X, Y, Z. And that's why you need to have an outside influence to, you know, to kind of broaden someone's horizons almost, because if you're not born racist. I know that's, you know, that's often said, but you're not. So having that awareness and teaching children about that, I think is paramount to trying to move forward
with this, And the thing is, it's funny because when people say, oh, yeah, well, you know, I know how you feel, but you don't know how you feel because you're not black.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or you're not a lady, or you're not this. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's the worst comment in the world. So I can imagine how you feel. And you can't.
Yeah. Racism. I'm not someone who's ever had to, you know, endure that. But I think we all need to learn about what everyone's faced, and we need to understand how we can help make that change as well.
Yeah, that's a good thing. And as I said, we've chatted for an hour now, and we've talked about racism, we've talked about mental illness, and you know, these are things that are coming up all the time. You know, we talk about dementia. You know, the things that we're now starting to think, well, we need to start looking into these things. And if we do that, then hopefully we'll have a better place and a better world.
Well, do you know what? You have just hinted we've been talking for an hour. I think that was his cue for me to stop talking.
No, it wasn't. It was like, bar and get me a glass
do you know
of wine.
what? Yeah, okay, I will. But we'll have to do this again sometime. Cheers.
They say life is a game, gotta have your goals. I gotta take a shot, now pass me the ball.